this parasha of Jithro, we are given the Luchot Habrit, the tablets of the covenant. As we all know, you can divide it into two. One side, mitzvot between a person and God. On the other side, mitzvot between a person and his fellow friend. On the side of mitzvot between a person and his God, we have also the mitzvah of kibud horim, respect to our parents. And the question arises, of course, it seems to be a mitzvah between a person and his fellow person. It's not between a man and his God. The simple explanation is that the Torah wants to emphasize first the importance of this mitzvah, and we indeed see that the Talmud draws a parallel between the respect a person needs to have toward his parents, the same way he needs to have to a person to his God. Ish imo vaviv tira'u. On the other hand, et Adonai Elohecha tira. Yir'ah, same way you have awe toward Hashem, same way you have to have awe toward your parent. So because of that, I decided today to have a collection of halachot, mitzvot, and hanhagot that are more relevant to the group listening to this class, as well as things that were asked here in a shiur we had about kibud horim, and questions that were sent to me. So first of all, in general, you can divide the mitzvot toward our parents into two. Kibud horim, this is the positive mitzvah of respect to our parents. We'll see later that it was to take care of all of their needs. On the other hand, we have the negative side, the yir'ah, the awe toward our parents, and in other words, not to dishonor them. Here is some sensitive things. First of all, the question is, why is it so important at all to put it in the Luchot Habrit, in the tablets of the covenant? Isn't this just a natural thing to have? And the answer is that I believe kibud horim, respect towards our parents, is one of the hardest mitzvot that there are. Because that not only that it's in the tablets, but it's on the side between a person and his God. Later on, we will also hear about Rav Chaim Palagi, who mentioned that the mitzvah of kibud horim, the essence, it's not when it's easy, not when it's your father, your mother is a respectful person, that's easy to do so. It's when things become harder. We'll get to that. And indeed, when we're children, young children, you're always children, but when we're young children, it is much easier to respect our parents. They're stronger, they provide for us, they're wiser. We see them as like a nice, natural, semi-God to us as young children. It is much harder when we become older, especially people between 30 to 50, when they're established the status of a family, they're married, they have children maybe, they are at the peak of their career, they're prominent people maybe in the community, in the larger community, they're productive, their parents are starting to deteriorate, become weaker, maybe to be forgetful, more ill, less prosperous, less technology-wise, and so on and so forth. This is when the mitzvah of kibud horim is actually coming into fruition and in a stronger way. One thing is of respect, or not to disrespect a person, is not to call them by their private names. Call them mama, call them abba, ima. To call them by their private name is considered a disrespect. So I have this question, but I work with but the person asked me, I work with my father, we have a family business, and when we have meetings, it's awkward to call them Abba. I call them his private name, so it will be like an equal table. And my answer to this is it might be at the beginning a little bit awkward, but once you get used to it, you will see how respected your father, your mother feels when you call them in public in a more respectful manner, not in their private names. From my own experience, I worked a little bit with my father, Harini Kaprat Mishkavo, and when I called him Abba, respect him, when he came in, I stood up until he sat, and then I was sitting as well. It might have been a little bit awkward at the beginning, but even for business-wise, it was much better because the people saw how I respect my own father, and they also gave more respect. They saw how when people see that a person is have good values, good ethics, he respectful toward the elders, especially to a parent, a person who he owes his life, usually also his upbringing, then they respect him even more. They respect you and they respect him even more. We tend to think, oh, we make ourselves smaller. We became bigger once we respect our parents. Also, let's also recall that it is in the side of it is a mitzvah. It's not just a natural law. Yes, most societies respect their elderly, especially the parents, but it is not only that because of their upbringing that brought us to the world that naturally we respect them. It is because Hashem commanded us to do so. Even if a person was born and let's say he never met his parents, only 20 years later, still he needs to respect them. Even though it's the first time he sees them and they never were part of their upbringing, even the mere fact that they brought us to life, Hashem commanded us that we are to give them respect and not to dishonor them. This about name calling, you will see that it becomes even more respectful, both for your parent, for yourself, and for everybody else. Bring this respect forth. To what extent do we need to respect our parents? So the basic halacha from the Torah, the Oraita, it is to take care of their physical needs. They need to be helped with feeding, with dressing, with cleaning their house, and so on and so forth. This is the actual mitzvah, the mandatory part of it. Beyond this, they want some company. They want to drink a cup of coffee. Everything beyond that is an extra important mitzvah, really important to the extent that it is in the Luchot Brit, in the tablets. Yet it is not mandatory as the basic needs of food, shelter, clothes, cleaning, and so on. I believe nowadays when you have this communication, it is almost mandatory to communicate with your parents at least twice a week. I was very lucky that in the last year of my father, when he was still alive, every day we spoke at least once or twice with a video conference. I think it's pretty basic, at least once a day to call or to visit, or some sort of mixture between visiting and calling. Depends where you reside, how close you live to your parents. But at least twice a week, always before Shabbat, and another time, of course, before the Chagim as well. When we do not have to, so as long as they have some physical needs, we have to take care of them, even on the expense of more work that we can do, even a loss of money because of that, or quality time with our spouse, with our family. To what extent? We do not need to lose our source of living. So we will not lose our job for this. We might earn less because we cannot promote ourselves more, or we cannot put more hours to work, but as long as we still have a source of livelihood, we must take care of their needs first. Of course, as long as they cannot do it themselves. Okay, just wrote my notes here. When do we do not need to do so? First, again, because of that we're going to lose our job, or because if it's ruining the education of our children, their grandchildren, so we do not have to live. Let's say there's a problem with a severe problem with education, so we can also move away, or if it really ruins our shlom bait. All that being said, again, of course, it is going to be on the expense of the quality time with your family, expense of more work. If a father or mother tells you to disobey one of the mitzvot, of course we do not listen to them, because they also are obligated to perform all the mitzvot. Well, the reason we respect our parents, of course, it's normal ethics, but the real reason is because Hashem commanded us to do so. What happens if a parent has a severe mental disorder? That's a very hard question, when it's really hard to be in their presence, and it creates conflicts and etc. The Gemara. As long as it's possible, a person needs to really hold himself on the horse and still provide for his parents, take care of their needs. If it's really severe, really cannot stand it anymore, and every time they're together, there is a struggle, there's fights, and being mad and so on, then we have a case in the Talmud of Rabbi Asi that his mother, at the beginning, asked him to buy jewelry all the time, but then he was a very prominent rabbi, and in public she asked him, find me, after she was widowed, her husband passed away, find me a shidduch, find someone that looks like you, that is smart like you, and in front of everybody. He could not stand anymore, so he paid or took care other people will help her, and he just moved away. But it's a very severe case. As long as it's possible and it's not too much, we must take care of our parents' need, even if they have such a mental disorder. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan was an orphan himself from birth, so his father died when he was still was not yet born, and his mother died while giving birth to him. And he says this really harsh expression, "Ashrei mi shelo ra'a aviv imo," like happy should be a person who never saw his parents, because otherwise, for sure, he would not able to really respect them as necessary. That's a very harsh expression, but again, it brings forth how much we must invest in it, how important it is. What happens with adopted children? So, first of all, toward their the parents, not the biological parents, they're the one that brought them up, that raised this adopted child. A person needs to be to respect them as well. It is not as mandatory as it is for the biological parents, but for sure, all the things have to do with not dishonoring them, a person is obligated to perform. As long as he lives in their house, he is obligated to take care of their needs as if they are his biological parents. And once he moved away, mainly not to dishonor them. Of course, the more he does for them, the better. If they're good people, of course, they are good people. If you adopted them, that's a permanent mitzvah, the huge mitzvah to adopt an orphan. He can definitely say Kaddish after they pass away, and Yizko, and so on. What about a convert, a ger? A ger, halachically, is completely uprooted from his biological parents. He's like a newborn. Once he goes out or she goes out of the mikveh, it's a new person, and therefore it is not mandatory completely to have all the halachot of kibud horim. On the other hand, of course, from regular ethics and the Rabbanan, a person is a ger is obligated to respect his biological parents, the non-Jewish biological parents, at least as much as an adopted child is, like as we said earlier. If they were good people, he can also, by the way, say Kaddish and Yizko over them. A question is what names? They're Goyish name. That's their names. That's very good and appropriate names, the non-Jewish name that they have, and that's the name he mentions and in Yizko. A very hard situation, especially when a person, let's say someone was lost her husband at an early age, and then she wants to get married. We are obligated, and she got married again to another husband, second husband, which is not our biological father, for instance. Kabed et avicha v'et imecha. Kibud horim, ilchot kibud horim. The laws of kibud horim are also to this a new father, new parent that came into picture. We are obligated to respect them and not to dishonor them as if they were our parents. Very hard, but that's the way it is. Also, this is a very important thing to me. That several times, many times, especially when there's a young widow, the children, because of the children, she's not getting married in the first year. So let's say a 30, 35 years old young widow, still in the market, so to speak, and more people are interested in her to get married, but she postpones it because let's say the children express their resentment. That's a really bad thing, because later on, in 10, 15 years, when she'll be, so to speak, ready, she won't be as attractive as she is now. And because of that, she loses her better chances of finding a suitable shidduch, spouse, to live with in the second stage of life. That's a terrible, tragic thing, And it is very good to remarry, especially in young ages when a person is widow or widowed. Um, has to be done. I'll say also. Another thing has to do with it a little bit different is children to divorced parents. Now, once a couple decided to get to divorce, they should remember that the children did not decide to divorce. What do I mean? I've seen so many times that let's say they divorce and they separate, and the kids are going sometimes to this house, other time on that house, or only to one side, and one of the parents are poisoning their children's mind with a bad thing about the spouse that they divorced from. This is a very bad thing. A child to grow up normally, in most cases, need both parents. Therefore, we should keep like as much as possible the good harmony for the sake of these children. They did not divorce. You have to remember this. Did not divorce from the parent, from the father, or from the mother, vice versa. What happened if we have a wicked parent? Are we obligated to respect him or her? It's a machloket, but we ordain that it is not mandatory. You go by the Rimad, it says, not by the Shulchan Aruch, but the Rimad, it says, it is not as necessary, of course, not to disrespect him, not to dishonor him, but we don't have to take care of all the necessities, because if he might ruin the education of our children or his bad influence over us. Nonetheless, this is strict halacha. We should try as much as possible to remember the good things that he or she did or still doing, although they're not, they're still vast majority are bad. But if they had to cling on the good things they did, it's also good for us, for our roots and for our children, to have something good to cling on. That being said, a child should not be the one assessing is my father or my mother is a wicked, bad, or person or not. You should ask the advice of a rabbi or someone that you appreciate to guide you in this case. These were many interesting, important things about this kibbud horim that has to do with our good relationship with our spouse, the way we saw our parents. It is very good, very important also for our children to grow up. The way they see us, don't forget how we respect and not dishonor our parents. They will probably do the same and learn from us. Shabbat shalom u'mevorach.